Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video, a little bit different than what I do. This is a reaction video, but it's to Slanderous's video on why the Lawbringer Rework is hot garbage. Now I will say, I have not watched it yet. I've started watching it, and I got to like his very first point, and I disagreed with it and left a nice comment, not a hostile one like a lot of people would leave. But because I disagreed with the first comment, or his first note about the rework, I figured, you know what, this could be a fun video. If you guys haven't checked out Slanderous, I'll leave a link to his channel, or at least this video down below, which will go to his channel. Go check him out. He makes a lot of For Honor videos, occasional other videos as well. Nice dude as well. But yeah, I figured we'd go ahead and react to this. Being the Lawbringer guy I am, those of you guys who aren't sure, new to the channel, or you just haven't been around forever, I've got over 120 reps on Lawbringer. Probably would have like 150 if I hadn't kept playing on the rep 70 cap on Xbox. I play at a pretty competitive level. I'm not a competitive player, but as far as like skill-wise, I'm pretty far up there. So as far as what makes Lawbringer viable, overpowered, underpowered, I'm pretty knowledgeable about this kind of stuff. But I figured when you watch this, check it out, give my opinion on stuff I agree with, disagree. Because on my last video showing the Lawbringer rework from the dev stream, that was more of like an initial reaction, but this should give more detailed thoughts for me as well. But yeah, guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and check out this video. Again, go check out Slanderous. Give him the credit he deserves because this is his video. But let's check it out together right now.
This is probably one of the worst reworks this game has ever seen, so let's not waste our time and get into each move individually. Starting with the triple light chain, I am ambivalent towards this change. I've since become of the belief that you shouldn't be able to do 3 lights in a row, since they removed that from Orochi because light spam, but now they're giving it to Lawbringer. 2 lights in a row would be fine, but Lawbringer doesn't feel like the kind of character that would do light. That's more of an assassin thing to do in my opinion. Just like
So that specifically, I disagree with. Not because light spam is something I like specifically support or anything. It's not an assassin thing. It never really has been, aside from Orochi and I guess Gladiator. But there's more hybrids that have 3-hit light chains than anything. Or you got like Kinsei, the Vanguard, who has 3-hit light chains. It's not really an assassin thing. I can't think of anybody else who has that. Now, triple lights compared to double lights, it doesn't bother me either way. And if people don't like triple light chains, that's perfectly fine. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it, especially being a hybrid. A lot of other hybrids have it. You got Scent, you got Valkyrie, hell, you got 2 of the Vanguards with triple light chains. I don't think that's inherently a bad thing, as long as the damage numbers are appropriate with the speeds, like 12, 13, 14, or if they're faster than like 14 ms, you know, like 9 and 10 damage, like kind of like they did with Nusha. But I don't think 3-hit light chains are necessarily an issue for the most part. They can be a little bit of a plague if you're on old gen console. But aside from that, I don't think there's anything wrong with having extra tools, as long as they're not like enhanced, which with the rework they did say there's no enhanced lights. So I think in this regard, I think triple light chains are fine.
it's like how you wouldn't see Shigoki do light either. It's just weird.
Shigoki is a heavy and also has a 2-hit chain, and he also has a bash that does damage, which is essentially like another light attack, but not blockable.
Also removed his enhanced properties on the side. I would have liked if at least the top light was enhanced, but dealt less damage. Overall, this feels like a somewhat lazy implementation and not true to the character.
I wouldn't have mind an enhanced top light. I think that would have been perfectly fine, as long as it was still either slowed down or like less damage, how it is now at 9, or would blocked it would be like 2 or 3. You know what I mean? I think that'd have been fine. Although if they did keep it enhanced, it would probably need to get rid of the 3-hit chain.
Then hyper armor chain heavies, pretty cool, good. About that,
I disagree. I think the finishers are fine. I don't like the whole chain being hyper armor. That's my personal opinion. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but his hitbox is already pretty decent. I don't think his chain needs hyper armor. I'm fine with finishers because it's not alone on that. There's many people with finishers, but having his whole chain hyper armor, that just basically makes Raider garbage compared to him. There's no point of playing Raider. I think he should keep the chains not hyper armored, but the unblockable finisher, I'm perfectly cool with that.
time actually. But now that his unblockable is hyper accessible, he now has access to a hyper armor unblockable that deals a lot of damage, which is something that's so strong. I would only give that to a character if that move is hard to access in the first place, which unfortunately it isn't. You can get it after any parry, bash, or guard break. The zone
So, I understand his perspective on this, saying it should be hard to access. But if you look at the other characters like Shigoki and Hitokiri, it's not hard for them to access it at all. It's really not. With Goki, you can actually do it from neutral just by holding heavy. Or you can go into your finisher and just hold it, and you can't be interrupted because you have hyper armor while charging it. You can get bashed out of it, but even then, I mean, it's risky to do so. So I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. Again, other people may disagree. The damage, I agree. Damage is way too high right now. I think they'll change damages assuming this goes through. They always do that in reworks. They never tweak the damage numbers, right?
Changed into a hyper armor heavy now, and its recovery has been increased. I find it sad that you can't do things like this anymore, but honestly, this just feels whatever to me. They traded one.
I mean, to be fair, full guard shouldn't be getting countered by this thing anyways. I think that's a silly thing that's in this game, but I digress.
Of his unique abilities no one else has, for a move that works better in teamfights. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Sure, you can say he's more viable in teamfights this way, but they removed the coolest, most high-skill maneuver you could pull off with Lawbringer. He can now...
Ooh, I wouldn't say it's the most highest skill maneuver you could do. I mean, it's cool. I wouldn't say it's the highest skill. So all it is a zone attack and then you parry. And if it's someone like Conqueror, it's actually reactable to the side that you're going to parry it on. Now, with this, I mean, the zone is still superior block. So now, if you're going against an opponent who has full guard and you could still chain after, you could just throw your chain heavy. It's hyper armored in this. So you could zone into it and then throw your heavy, and you're going to eat their full guard attack, but then they're going to eat a chain hyper armor heavy. So, I mean, while it gets rid of, like, I guess the style for that, I don't think it's necessarily like a nerf. If anything, it's still a buff because you're still going to win the trade most of the time, unless they have like a super quick full guard recovery. But even then, if your opponent's doing that, you could always just feint your second heavy and guard break him. So, I don't know. I feel like it just adds more fair, or not more fair, but like just more mind games into that, which I think is cool.
Also feint his chain bash, which, who asked? The animation looks horrific. It's testing grounds, I know, but these are things you have to call out anyway, so they get improved later.
So I think everybody agrees on that, and I'm not going to hate on him for saying that. It is testing grounds, like he said. Animations are always crap in testing grounds. They're testing more functionality than anything. Now, the Variably time bash, I know a lot of people hate it. Literally, the only reason they're doing this is for reaction monsters, because there's people that can react to bash indicators like consistently. It's mainly the high level people, like the really fast reaction people. For Variably time bash, like say Conquerors, when they added to him, nobody's reacting to those, okay? Like for example, I went against with 1S, if you guys know him. He's a reaction monster. He can parry flash like pretty consistently. When I played him and used the Variably time bash, that was the only thing I could do against him for him to have to make a read. And it was the only time I could really get damage in on him with anything that was orange. So against those players, that is when it's essential. It's a good tool. And he uses a lot of stam anyways. So if you do hit it, you're only going to get 13 damage. And if you feint a guard break, you get 24, but you use like 40% of your stamina. So that's what it's for those who are asking or those who don't know or are questioning why they're adding that. It's literally just for the high level players that can react to parry flash. I think that's essentially the only thing I can think of, because otherwise a fast bash I think would be better. But yeah, that's what it's for.
Since his chain heavies have hyper armor and decent tracking, the mix-up should already work. This change did not need to be included, and to me it just feels like a waste of time. Plus,
this is all going back to that. It's just for high level players.
Why would you even be able to feint the bash if you can access your unblockable that deals a fuck ton of damage, has hyper armor, has better tracking, and is overall much better? This change is just so weird to me.
Yeah, I just don't think he understands the fact that a lot of the higher reaction players can react to the orange, but they can't react to a variably timed bash like that. Just nobody can. That's why a lot of these heroes are really good. Like Wardens are really good at top level, at least for duels. Not like S tier, because there's more unreactable stuff like Valkyrie's bash. That's why Tiandi is so good. His kick is feintable and they can't react to the kick.
Then the Impale got nerfed. It no longer wall splats if it doesn't hit a wall, which is a good change. Again, the animation is horrible, but let's cope and say that it's a testing grounds problem only.
Yep.
I would have preferred if the Impale dealt 10 damage and it granted a light for a total of 22. That way it's not only more realistic because the Impale itself actually deals damage, but you get worse chain offense than if you were to press light after a parry.
Worse chain offense?
So then it's another choice the player has to make. More damage or better chain offense. But
I don't know about that one, because when you open with, at least with current Lawbringer, obviously it's going to change a little bit having light chains, but anytime you can open with a heavy, you have way more options. And based on what he was saying there, you do an Impale, and you're going to get 21 damage with this, right? It's 21, unless they did something wrong, which I don't think they did. Heavy top for 21 sounds about right. You get more offense with a heavy opener. So once you've done the Impale for 1 damage, the 20, you can go into your bash as well. While if you've done it with a light, you don't get to do that, because you just have heavy or another light attack. With this, you have a heavy or a light attack or a bash. So I'm not really sure where he's getting at with this. Plus, it's a little bit of a skill check too. If you use this Impale and you don't do it in a spot where it matters, I don't think you should be given 10 damage for an Impale. Because why? You could have gotten 12 or 16, for a light attack. So I feel like this is a risk that's worth taking. It's a little bit of a skill check from the Lawbringer player to use the Impale appropriately.
despite this not being the best they could have done to him in my opinion, I would still say it's a good change. Then Lawbringer can now endlessly chain top heavy finishers that are unblockable, have hyper armor, and deal 36 damage. What?
So the damage absolutely needs to go down. Absolutely. At most, it should do a total of 32. At most. I think it should do, personally, I think it should do 26 and 4, or maybe 28 and 4, because it is a top attack for 32. It doesn't blind anymore either, but that's all I can think of, especially since it has that extra light tap that goes back to the unblockable. I don't think it should do 36, and I don't think the devs do either. I think they probably know it's busted as well. They mentioned in the testing grounds with Yorm that the damage numbers were high, and they are aware of that, and I'm sure they're not just trying to make the same mistake here. Honestly, they're probably leaving the damage numbers at testing grounds because they think it'll be fun for a while, which it is on when you're using them, which is why people enjoyed the Yorm testing grounds, because you were doing 50, 60 damage on every guard break because they just go into the wall. But if they do put this through, and I'm glad it's only on top heavy finishers. On sides, which is where you're going to actually catch more people, you're not going to keep infinitely chaining straight back to your unblockable. This is only on top. So if the opponent does dodge, I mean, you're not going to keep chaining back into it. It is strong though, as is. I think the damages go down at least to 32 max, counting the extra tap. If not, maybe 30.
The actual fuck. Every time someone like Conqueror or Hitokiri get an infinite bash or unblockable mix-up, they have to extremely tone down the damage every single time because of how strong it is.
So, testing grounds again with Conqueror, when they were messing with him, his chain heavies that he could do, if y'all remember, he had undodgeable heavies and a bash mix-up in his testing grounds, and then they later just changed to unblockable. But when he had that, it was 27 damage on the undodgeables, which is pretty high for infinite undodgeables. So again, testing grounds, it's just kind of the pattern the devs do, and nobody ever agrees with it, and they end up toning it down. And that's why Conqueror's unblockable heavies right now are 22, which is very low. Personally, I wish they would raise it to 25. I think that'd be a little bit better, but I'm probably biased on that. I'm a Conk main, so. But we're not going to talk about that. Like I said, testing grounds, damage numbers, all too high. Everybody agrees on that.
And now this move deals 36 damage, and you can't even hit the Lawbringer out of it because it has hyper armor. This is absolute garbage. I don't care if this is a testing grounds. They are professional game designers, and you should have seen this coming for...
I don't think you should be able to bash him out of it anyways. It's your unblockable finisher. It's your finisher pressure. I don't think being interrupted in today's meta by your opponent is good. If you have a teammate around, that's fine, because everybody has a bash in this game essentially, except for a handful of people. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree that it should be interruptible by your opponent, because it's your finisher. But again, that's my opinion.
4 miles away. How anyone thought this was a good idea is just terrifying to me, that these people have power to change the game. And by the way, Lawbringer in the live version can choose to deal 30 damage after a light berry, or 25 with mix-up potential. This concept is absolutely scrap, because now each heavy finisher leads into another heavy finisher anyway. So this player choice is completely thrown out of the window. And because you can now access a 36 damage unblockable after any berry, There is no longer, oh, am I gonna do a light, bash, or heavy after this parry? The correct thing to do is...
I see what he's going for as far as like having a mix-up option, because like what a lot of people do, if there's no walls nearby and you get a light parry, instead of going for the 30 damage, because it puts you at a frame disadvantage, no follow-up. That's where it's at currently. You do the 25 and 5 tap. What he's talking about is when people will instead either go for the Impale for, you know, if there's a wall behind them, and then start with a top heavy to get 25, or you can actually delay your heavy and just do a top heavy opener, and that's also confirmed. I see what he means by that, but like at the same time, I think having a proper max punish is not a bad idea, because every character in the game has a proper max punish. You're not gonna do like something different, except for like 2 scenarios. You got the Turian, who can get a bash near a wall, but the damage is so minusculely different, and then all he leads it to is his punch. And then you have Warmonger, who can Impale instead of a top heavy for 3 more damage at 30. So if that's what he's talking about, then that is perfectly fine. I don't see anything wrong with having that opinion still. But I don't know. I mean, the top heavy, it still has a blind on the parry, so I don't know. It's pretty strong. I guess we'll see. Once they lower the damage numbers, it might not be as scary, but I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily agree with him on this. Again, there's no right or wrong in this, I don't think. I guess it just depends on what you prefer.
Always to go for the unblockable, since it's miles away, better than any other option. You are essentially removing thought from the game, just to make Lawbringer more viable in a bad way. So not only do you have an...
I mean, I feel like you should get rewarded for your light parries, but that's just me.
Extremely strong move that is super easy to access, which is already a bad thing, but then you also make it an infinite. Not to mention you can get 27 damage with a guard break now because of long arm. And even if the enemy dodge attacks, who cares? All dodge attacks...
27 damage because of long arm? Where do you get 27 damage at? Huh. I guess I missed something there. I don't know where the 27 came from.
Attacks are light parries now and you're fighting a Lawbringer. Good fucking luck. This is absolute trash and it's inexcusable. I was sucking their dick when...
Oh, the top heavy opener does 23. Okay. I'm corrected on that.
The Variably rework came out, because I saw it had great potential and I started to develop faith in the team. But now, they turned Lawbringer into another Conqueror Raider Griffin clone. They made him absolutely overpowered on several levels. Again...
Conqueror Raider Griffin. No, I can kind of agree with that.
And the animation looks like shit. This is the most...
Animations do not matter in this scenario. It's testing grounds, bro. It's all about functionality than is the animations. They're not going to smooth out and make all these new animations for something that's going to get scrapped. They're going to wait until the community has agreed or disagreed if the functionality of this works. And that's what they're always testing, is functionality. They'll polish it out once it's done. That's what they've done with all these heroes, like the last year on testing grounds.
Boring, uninspired rework I've ever seen. It completely shits on what the character is meant to be, turns it into everyone fucking else, with nothing unique. His lack of chase hasn't been addressed, and the whole idea for this rework I just completely hate, for multiple game design reasons I haven't mentioned that will affect the entirety of all reworks to come in the future. All Lawbringer needed was some swift changes: hyper armor on the second chain, an Impale roll catcher, a zone mid chain, nerf to the heavy parry, a light chain, and perhaps a long arm buff. It was so goddamn easy, but...
So, a lot of people do say these things, and I agree having some of these things are nice. I think what they're trying to do is refresh the hero a little bit, just because we all know Lawbringer is not the funnest to fight, okay? He drains all your stam, he could stare at you and just do a shit ton of damage. And with this rework, at least as he is right now, he's still going to do a shit ton of damage. He's going to be basically a better Conqueror if they leave him in this state. The only thing Conqueror is going to have an advantage is a full guard recovery. Lawbringer won't have that. Only thing Lawbringer will have a shove recovery he can do to thwart guard breaks, I'm assuming. But that's it. He won't have a full guard recovery. That's where Conqueror is going to shine. That and I guess infinite side sweeping unblockables compared to Lawbringer. But the stuff Slander's mentioning here, these are like all buffs, and I don't think Lawbringer needs all
roll
buffs.
Catcher, a zone mid chain, hyper armor on the second chain.
So let's go back and watch this real quick.
All Lawbringer needed was some swift changes: hyper armor on the second chain,
buff,
an Impale roll catcher,
another buff,
a zone mid chain,
another buff,
nerf to the heavy parry, a light,
a nerf to the heavy parry. Okay, so that is one nerf. But what would he nerf on that? Because the way he wanted to do it was 10 damage on the Impale and then open with a light, which is not much of a nerf. That's 3 damage. That's not much of a nerf. And there's people that get way higher punishes already. I don't know why you'd want to specifically nerf that. But okay, we'll count that as a small nerf.
Light chain, and perhaps
So a 4th buff.
a long arm buff.
5th buff. Now the 5th one, the long arm change, I think they should just make it safe, which is what they did here, which is good. So he wanted 5 buffs in one tiny nerf. Lawbringer is performing very well right now on the in live For Honor right now. Like, he performs very well at pretty much all levels. At low level, in fairly certain, he stomps. Probably even at average level. And at high level, he's like a high A tier, like duels, 4s, whatever. Because he has pretty decent chain offense. If you start with a bash that's not reactable to most, very strong unblockable finishers that are pretty safe and good parries. So I'm not really sure why he wants to buff all these things about him and then give him like a tiny slap on the wrist. I feel like that would be worse, in my opinion, than what he is now, because he would still have stand pressure, which is already disgusting. It's super gross. But I mean, like I said, the stuff he mentions, while it just seems like it would give you the same thing you have now, but worse. This is also terrifying, this rework. It's disgustingly good, and it's going to get nerfed. It is refreshing, however, to an extent, because they did add the little taps, which are nice. They gave him a variably timed bash, which is going to help open some people, which is nice. I don't know. I disagree with what he wanted, but at the same time, the rework is also not perfect either. It's probably going to get a second round of changes as well.
It was so goddamn easy, but they still fucked it up anyway. All because there's a Night Hero skin coming out next season that will undoubtedly be a Lawbringer skin. So
it probably will be a Lawbringer skin. I don't see why it wouldn't be. Either that or a Griffin skin, because I feel like Griffin is very loved by Ubisoft. But I don't think this is because of that. I don't know why. I don't expect this rework to go through anyways. Because, look, we didn't get a Yorm skin. Yorm's getting reworked. When they easily could have done a Viking. They just did BP. Why not just go ahead and do a Viking? You know what I mean? But, I don't know. Again, I digress on that one.
So they need to make him OP so people play him more, so that the skin sells better. I know how you work, Ubisoft. I am literally...
It's called a business model. That's how it works. Anytime somebody gets reworked, or, you know, new character comes out or anything, they're going to make changes, man. That's just how it is. But I don't know in this specific scenario if that's the case. Lawbringer has not been touched, or at least reworked, aside from his little bash changes, since, like, what, Season 10? Which was Year 3, Season 2. We're at Year 7, Season 1, so it's been over 3 years, 3.5 years. It's just about time, man. He's stale for the most part. I mean, you got to rely on turtling, or you got to rely on opponents' mistakes for the most part. It's unfortunate, but that's just how he is.
In your walls, and I am extremely disappointed. To make this video not all doom and gloom,
what's on his walls?
I am literally in your walls.
Oh, he's in the walls. Well, we know now Slanderous lives in Ubisoft's walls.
To make this video not all doom and gloom, I will say that I love the Pirate Hero skin, and I will probably buy it.
The Pirate Hero skin. Why are we talking about the Pirate Hero skin?
Another one of my predictions came true. I like half of the new weapons, event game mode, Yorm changes, and even though she still has problems, thank God they fixed the Pharah. I'm not just a hater. I fucking love this game, man. When a Pharah...
Why are we talking about the other stuff? It's not even part of this video.
Hope.
So one thing I want to point out is there's a tech to do long arm on guard break. It's a weird input you got to do. It's something you're not going to do on accident. And this Ubisoft developer knows how to do it. Because watch this.
Would have a hero with chain-like crushing counters.
Watch this. Guard break.
And a bash that
into flip.
Something new.
I love it.
Different. And then they pull this stunt. I am incredibly disappointed, and I hope they scrap this rework completely because it's hot garbage. That said, adios.
So yeah, that's my thoughts, guys. Like I said, the rework itself, I think overall it's just going to be fun to play. Damage numbers are so high. There's a lot of good fixes to it, but I overall not the biggest fan of it because it's just like a Raider 9.0. The only thing it's missing is a storming tap. But it doesn't need that because right now it's got good damage and it chains back into unblockables infinitely. All with hyper armor. It's a little bit terrifying. Again, just because I disagree with Slanderous doesn't mean he's a bad guy or nothing, go check him out again. Like I said, links in the description. He makes a bunch of miscellaneous entertainment content. He'll give you some hot takes. Like I said, there was a couple in there, and I got my own hot takes too. But guys, hope you did enjoy the video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments down below. I want to hear what you guys think. Don't be a dick to each other, okay? Don't be a dick to each other. Don't be a dick to Slanderous. Don't be a dick to me, okay? No dicks flying around. But guys, y'all have a great day. I'll catch you next time.